And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the final qualifier for Masters Coliseum number 7. We have covered every single region so far, starting with Asia, going into the Americas, following it up with Korea last night, and now we are here with the final region with Europe. And I hope everyone is ready for an amazing tournament and an amazing bracket as well. Exclamation mark B in the chat if you guys want to have a look at the challenge, even the Wikipedia page yourself, as we are loading into game number 1. And spawning in the top left hand corner of Hardlead, we have the French Protoss player, the blue Protoss representing the Platinum Heroes. It is DnS. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the red Zerg player representing Team Liquid. It is Elazer. Here we go. And again, there are a couple of people asking kind of our road here to, the finals, to the qualifying match. There is quite a lot of matches going on at the moment, and some really good and really juicy series as well. I highly recommend checking out some of the other streams. There's ourselves, there's Steadfast, there's Rotterdam, there's other language streams as well, I believe, being covered in other languages, of course. And yeah, a lot of really good matches. What I will say though is that everyone will eventually converge. There is only one qualifying match, only one spot is available, so eventually everyone will be coming together towards the end of the broadcast, covering that one final series. But our roads to the finals are going to be quite different here, and yeah, going to be opting to go for this initial ZvP to kick things off. And I'm ready for it. I am ready for it. On paper, Elazer is a much more historic and, again, kind of a accomplished player. This is true. Elazer, he has cemented himself as one of the best Zerg players in Europe. I would say he is top 3 Zerg in Europe at the moment. I know some people would say that Elazer's top 4 Zerg, and he's a little bit interchangeable with Lambo, and I would agree with that. I would agree that he's very interchangeable with Lambo depending on who is feeling stronger on the day at the time. But regardless, he's one of the best that Europe has to offer when it comes to Zerg players. At the same time, DnS has been looking very impressive. Even though when it comes to the top Protosses in Europe, people think of Showtime and Max Packs, DnS has been climbing the ranks this year specifically. If you've been following the CranKy Ducklings, you would be following World Team League, and on a weekly basis we have been covering the Platinum Heroes, and especially in the summer season, in the early months of this year, DnS really popped off, really, I don't want to say it came out of nowhere. Like, DnS is an old school player, very old school, has been around for a very long time, but this year specifically, like, he really came into his own. He really carried the Platinum Heroes on his back in the summer season of the league. I would say that he very quickly cemented himself as the ace player on the Platinum Heroes and would constantly go up against the best of the best in the world, and he wouldn't look bad. He would not look bad at all against players like Cyril and Maru and Showtime. Not quite Showtime, he's not playing in World Team League, but Max Packs as well. And yeah, it's just been really cool to see DnS really thrive here this year, and we'll see if he can kind of have that really come to fruition at the end of the year here in Masters Coliseum. DnS, it all kind of like came to fruition at Home Story Cup, where DnS actually, I believe, did beat Elazer. It did happen, so I'm curious if he could do it again. And I'm hoping I'm not misremembering DnS beating Lambo instead. I mentioned before that they're a little bit interchangeable, and that's true, but I know he took down one of the big Zerg players. I can't quite remember who it was. It was Elazer. I think Elazer and Cyril were both in DnS's group in Home Story Cup not too long ago, the most recent Home Story Cup. And double checking, yes. So DnS, we did cast it. We casted it on this channel. We casted the group stage, and DnS did 2-0 Elazer the last time they faced in Home Story Cup. That was how long ago at this point? That was at the beginning of December. Very beginning of this month. So we'll see if DnS can do it again. For now, it is going to be a Stargate opener, Stargate to a third base. Oracles have hit the field, and Elazer is keeping up with the movement of these Oracles so far, minimizing his losses, minimizing his damage at his third base. Behind this, DnS is transitioning. We have our tech of choice, Twilight Council and a Forge. This should be a +1, a Blink Stalker transition from DnS. Meanwhile, we find our way into the natural base. We get a couple of drone kills. 4 workers go down in total. A bit of hull damage, but overall pretty good damage. Oh, as I say that though, that one Oracle takes some extra hits and is getting very low. Despite that, we get in once again, find some more damage. 6 drones in total. Pretty good so far here from DnS. Again, these Oracles are softened up. It's going to be a little bit difficult to find more damage from here, but damage done nonetheless. And hey, you know, we're still alive. We're still able to keep track of the main army, keep track of the economy, and even get eyes on the would-be fourth. Interesting location here from Elazer, taking the forward 4th hatchery here. Behind this, DnS not going for Blink, he's going Charge instead. So this is looking like Charged Up Archon as a composition of choice. This is ideal against a Ling Hydra based army. Elazer, speaking of, should be going into Roaches. Roach Warren is done, Lair is on the way. Once it finishes up, Roach Speed will be accessible here for Elazer. Now, with Charge, I believe DnS should be hitting first. We already have the War Prism on the way. We have the Temple Archives as well. And we can try to hit the timing with the first 2 Archons, with a mass amount of charge ults as well. DnS, it looks like he wants to be the driver's seat, at least initially, in this series. Now, it's important to point this out because earlier when we cast... Oh, no! Oh, as DnS does leave the Oracles a little bit idle. But last time we casted DnS versus Elazer, DnS was more of a defensive player. You know, he was kind of taking a more passive kind of route into the mid game, and then that's when he would really pop off. But here instead, he's being a little more assertive. We spoke about it. Here comes the first Prism, here comes the first 2 Archons, and a mass amount of charges. How many gateways do we have? 6 gateways in total. 6 gateways to reinforce, and the goal here for DnS is try to catch Elazer being a little bit too greedy, and Elazer doesn't have too much to defend, but we got plenty of Roaches coming in. We have Lings harassing across the map. They're going to be hitting that 3rd base. At the same time, DnS trying to dive on top of the main army. Nice warp in here back at home. The Sim City working beautifully against the Ling counterattack. The Lings do nothing. The Zelse get on top of the Queens. The Archon army getting on top of the hatchery itself. It looks like the base should be going down. We want the Queens. We got a high energy Queen at that. Good juggling here from DnS, but the Queens, oh my god, they want that Prism. They do not get it. So many Queens fall. Pretty good trade. That was 4 Queens going down, but we saved the hatchery. At the same time, the Ling counterattack didn't really achieve too much here. Is once again going to be threatening that 3rd base, but it will be cleaned up. DnS, he defends, and he does a decent job attacking as well, but he did not kill the hatchery. It got low, did get very low, but does stand strong. And with that, Elazer now getting into his Roach Hydra base composition. Hydra Den is done, Lunker Den is on the way. Elazer doubling down here on these range upgrades, of course, being very light on Ling Bane, more heavy here on that Roach and Hydra, and so far unscattered. I do like this a lot from Elazer, just kind of rushing into lurkers. We'll see if he can get away with it. We have the Archons, of course, threatening and catching a couple of overlords here and there. But what's important is that DnS, he doesn't know about the hive timing, doesn't know about the tech available either. Not yet. He's making his way towards the main base, and if he gets in, this is going to be a big scout, but oh, he is deflected. Behind this, the mortal count is getting higher and higher. Now, bearing in mind a couple of things. When it came to the earlier attack, DnS didn't lose anything important. Looking at the units lost tab, he lost a couple of gateway units, a Stalker, some Adepts, some Zealots, but he retained all of his Archons and Immortals. So this army is becoming quite hefty. It's becoming quite powerful, and it's going to hit like a truck when he does move out once again. Meanwhile, the Prism is deflected. Oracle's getting eyes on saturation. They do see the droning at least. They do get eyes on the droning of his opponents, and here come the hallucinations. Big scouts. The Hydra Den has been seen. DnS hasn't seen the Lurker Den, but he can piece it together. At this point, he should be fully aware. Mate, you see a Hive and a Hydra Den, Lurkers are the only logical conclusion. And we are turtling on. Oh my god. We got a wall of shield batteries, cannons here towards the center base. We should be seeing the same here on the right-hand side. Lunkers and Vipers are on the way for Elazer. DnS doesn't have the best army for this. His army is quite powerful against Ling Bane Roach Ravager and against Hydras. Against Lurkers, there's potential here, but yeah, it is going to be a little bit risky. The problem is that because DNS's army is so short range, when he commits to a fight, when he fights, he has to commit. We gotta just send the Papia. So far, a big revelation here on the Lurkers. We do have eyes on them. No Skytoss transition yet, but that can be where we head next once the 4th base gets up and running. That should be where we head next. There we go. The lurkers, they do siege. They do burrow here outside that center base. We can see DnS setting up for potentially a surround. These lurkers are looking very exposed, by the way. We have some roaches here on the right-hand side to support. One Viper as well to yoink, and we're going for, the Prism. Prism is going to be going down. At the same time, there's that Fleet Beacon for that Sky Toss. Ooh, and DnS finding an army here, finding a fight without many of these lurkers at all. Gonna be an expensive loss here for Elazer, losing a lot of those Hydras. Lurker's gonna be going down, and DnS, he's just avoiding the main Lurker army and going for a big counterattack. Trading very well for the time being. But there we go, Lurkers turn back around, but now they're being outpositioned. Get one yoink, one immortal. Hatchery goes down in an instant. And DnS can keep on pushing the Overlords. We catch a massive chunk of Overlords, and I mean, you know, Elazer was known for this for quite some time, but it is going to be supply blocked. Hydras coming in to reinforce. That's a lot of Hydras. And it looks like DnS is going to be avoiding the main army. Boys are being pulled. Oh my god. A lot of boys are going to be going down. Hydras going toe-to-toe with the Immortals. Looks like we get on top of the Immortals. We will clean this up. At the same time, Lurkers are pushing. We do see Zealots trying to clean this up, but it looks like Elazer is coming out on top. He cleans up the entire army. And cleans up the Immortals, cleans up the Archons. If there was a War Prism with this, then we could have reinforced, but GG gets called, and Elazer fights back, putting a point on the board. Whew. GG. GG, well played. DnS may have 2-0'd Elazer at Home Story Cup, but here Elazer is again fighting back. This was pretty close though. There's a lot that came into this game. A big one, of course. I mean, we were just talking about it. If the War Prism wasn't sniped the way that it did, the way that it was, then DnS would have been able to reinforce and may have been able to snowball out of control if he could warp in with Zealots to support his main army. But even before that, the Hatchery surviving, Elazer having the wherewithal as well, having the wherewithal to tech up into Lurkers when he did. You know, that was in a way his win condition. Like, he was able to recognize how defensive DnS was being, and he immediately took advantage of it, rushing into that Hydra Den, into Lurkers, into the Hive. It worked out beautifully. For a moment there, it looked like Elazer was being outpositioned, and I was really concerned if Elazer tried to come back home with his Lurkers. Thankfully, he kept them pushing across the map, was punishing the base, of course, and he was able to eventually deal with the main army. Eventually. So we're getting ready here for our next... We are getting ready here for our next game. We are going to be loading into game number 2. Here we go. See in chat, 20 minutes into the stream and no one has claimed first. Outrageous, Papi. Everyone was we were just being kind, okay? Just wanted everyone else to come first. Aye. Hello, Einstein. Hello. Hope you're doing well. There's no delay in other shows. There should be. If there isn't, then that's on them. But here we go. We're getting into the next game, and spawning in the top left-hand corner of Site Delta, we have the French Protoss player, the blue Protoss representing the Platinum Heroes. Down in this series, we're going to fight back. It is DnS. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Red Zerg player from the land of Poland, representing Team Liquid. It is Elazer. We go. Catch you in the chat. Hello, ahí están así Ligo BBQ. Terran Lord Soundo, bienvenidos. Hope you're all doing well. You're all doing good. Ooh. As we are settling into this. And again, Elazer does have a lead in the series. Again, solid play out of him being able to get away with rushing into those lunkers. And again, DnS was stuck with a subpar army composition when it came to engaging with Lurkers. Didn't have the range for it, didn't have disruptors, for example. Had eventually a transition towards Sky Toss in the works, but I was still a ways away. But now we're getting into a bit of a larger map, and I'm sure the size of the map also kind of determined how DnS want to play out that game. Hard lead, very short rush distance, you can be very assertive, very aggressive. Here on side delta, quite a bit longer instead, and as a result we could see a bit of a more drawn out game, something a bit of a different approach. We'll see if we go for charge again or if we go for something different. I am ready for it. True. We can't wait 30 seconds. Oh no. Not like this. We're all coming first. That's we are gonna be settling into this. And so far, Elazer just forced to take the unnatural natural. We have our Stargate opener here from DnS as well. This could be a Stargate opener, I imagine, to Oracles, into a third base. But what comes after the Stargate is really what we're concerned about, is really what we're going to be looking for. Is whether we go into charge again, into blink, glaive adepts, sky toss. There is a lot available here for DnS. We have our first adept threatening a shade here towards that mineral line. Getting a read on things shouldn't really get much done, and yeah, is going to be forced to shade away. That first adept going to soon be joined by the second, and this time it is not an Oracle. We are going for a Void Ray. Let's go. Void Ray first here from DnS is going to be shutting down this Overlord. And that means that our tech following this up is going to be hidden. We have the opportunity to go into something like Glaive Adepts if we so chose to. Or we can play standard, and the problem here for Elazer is that he will be in the dark. He won't really know what DnS is up to. But again, these Void Ray openers have been very trendy as of late. Oh my, I was not expecting this though. A Void Ray first into Phoenixes? Okay. Very interesting. And we're going double Stargate Phoenix. Okay, so with this, we can amass Phoenixes. We can, of course, eventually threaten mineral lines, threaten queens, and snowball out of control. Yeah, this is a very quirky build, and not unseen. Hero's done this before, Classic as well, but definitely a lot more niche, and yeah, very rare. A much rarer here of a build, of an opener. I'm curious how we do follow this up. It is very commonplace as well to go into DTs behind this. You know, the Patty Mac special is something that Patty Mac would love to do, where you go Phoenix into Dark Templar, very Brood War-esque. Until then, though, we have our Void Ray getting across the map, getting one drone kill before getting forced out. Safety Roach Warren is on the way here for Elazer. I say Safety Roach Warren. Actually, this was a little bit earlier than normal, around a 4-minute 30 Roach Warren timing. It looks like, I want to assume that he's preparing for potentially Glaive Adepts or some kind of ground transition. We can see even +1 air is on the way. Okay. You have my attention. You have a massive wave of Lings in production, and I'm curious if Elazer wants to commit. I mentioned before that this Roach Warren is a little bit earlier than normal, and we could just try to double down, but no, there we go. We are droning. I was basically waiting to see if Elazer would drone or if he would commit to producing an army. Here we go, Lings, they do come in from the right-hand side. They're going to surround on the Nexus, and we should be force a kill on the shield battery. Can we get the base itself? Okay, that's a lot of Lings, not a lot of DPS here, and it looks like the base is going to go down. Aye. Well worth it here for Elazer. We have 22 more Lings on the way. There's +1 melee, and the problem is that Mass Phoenix does nothing against Mass Ling. There were just too many Lings to pick up, too much to just deal with. And here we go, Phoenix is zooming across them. They get spotted, they get seen. Elazer knows. Immediately, Hydrogen on the way. I'm loving the reaction here from Elazer. Well, we got on top of the first queen. And one queen, both queens going to be going down. These Phoenixes, they're putting in some work, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, do we have enough to deal with all these Lings? These Phoenixes are forced out. Elazer do catch a couple of transferring workers. 3-4 probes going to be going down. Clutch force field going to be able to hold on to the natural base. Phoenix is coming back in, but plenty of queens are in position. We do catch an overlord. Catch a queen, no spore. Oh, this spore is very late, and we go to town here on this base. 3 overlords go down. A laser supply block despite finishing up the Hydra den. No Hydras. No Hydras in sight. As we catch even more of these overlords. At the same time, Lings go for a counterattack, but this time we have a shield battery, we have an overcharge, and this time the base will survive. But that is 12 Hydras in production. Now, we can deal with low amount of Hydras. We can pick them up one at a time here with all these Phoenixes. There's potential. But Hydras with Queens to support, that's a different story. And oh, these Phoenixes taking a lot of damage. Taking far too much damage here. Behind this, we have our Charge Out transition. Charge Outs alongside Archons. Will work a little bit nicer here against Ling Hydra, but it is a bit of a later transition for DnS as opposed to the previous game. Yeah, we're going for the Hydras. Well, we do lose one Phoenix. We lose a second Phoenix as well. Expensive losses here for DnS. 2 Phoenixes for 2 Hydras. Not quite worth it. Bearing in mind that these Phoenixes are the only thing keeping Elazer back at home. Speaking of DnS, he's still building up his army, building up Charge Lots and Archons. And Elazer's pushing. I think he knows that he has a big opportunity right now to just push across the map, knock down these rocks, and to end the game. And without Storm, without splash damage, I don't know if DnS can hold on. It's going to be close. Additional Archons are on the way. We do have an overcharge available. Bailey's going to be rolling on in. Yeah, they crash into the Zealots, into the Archons as well. And there's just too much DPS, too many Hydras here. The Queen's waddling in as well to support. And it's just a numbers game. Again, the third base had gone down earlier. The economy was disrupted. These Phoenixes were okay, but ideally we wanted to get more damage done with them. GG gets called, and Elazer will take the series 2-0, getting his revenge and advancing on in the tournament. GG. GG, well played. With that, Elazer will advance on here into the next round. My condolences to DnS, as he is going to be eliminated from the tournament. Again, did very well for himself. He did very well for himself earlier this month, you know, taking down Elazer the way that he did. But here in the rematch, he did fall, and yeah, the Phoenix build here in game number 2, it wasn't... I'm not entirely fond of it. I mean, the problem... So there's a couple of things that really worked against him, unfortunately. Initially, everything was going well, but because of the big investment into Lings, because of the massive Ling counterattack, before the Phoenixes revealed themselves, we lost the third base. That was a big moment when the third base was killed for DnS before the Phoenixes could really do anything, and they couldn't reveal themselves, otherwise they'd be less effective, and we just couldn't hold on to that base. We didn't have the DPS for it, and yeah, DnS was just in a really rough position after losing that Nexus. Tried to recover, was doing some damage, don't get us wrong, but again, not enough to really afford or really get away with losing an entire base that early in that game. GG. GG, well played. Things did snowball out of control in favor of Elazer, and he advances on to face off against his next opponent. And we can take this moment to have a look at the bracket.